Time is 8:11. An honor to have Jason Farris. He is the author behind what is being called the best hockey book in the last decade. It's called Behind the Moves. Check it out. It's a gorgeous, big, meaty book filled with pictures and insight. Why? Because you decided to do, which I can't believe no one else has done yet, which is interview the GMs.
That's right.
So why did this take so long? I mean, obviously, this is one of the things where people want to tap into their brains. They're the coaches. They're the ones who are making all the calls and the shots. But you were the first to compile all these interviews.
Well, it's a bit of a secret society, really, and to get into it is not very easy. So I spent a lot of time building a good relationship with Brian Burke. I come out of the executive world myself, and I think he got the concept of this right away, understood there's a historical aspect, but that really the profession of general management is a pretty deep profession and has evolved over the years, and so we sought to begin to expose that, and then I found out and involved every living general manager who's taken a team to the Cup final. There's 35 of them that have been actively involved in building this book over the last 2 years, so it's the real inside story.
That's the cool thing. It's not only what does it take to get to the Stanley Cup, but you were privy to stuff that no one else was ever able to even get close to before, because you literally went to the cottages with them, and you were a fly on the wall, and then you had how many hours of interview footage?
Well, we ended up recording 120 hours of interviews with these 35 general managers, but as you say, I pretty much lived with them for the last 18 months at their cottages in the summer, their homes, their wives let me into their homes with the husbands, in their offices, whatnot, really trying to build a feel for who these people were and allow them to tell their philosophies and their stories, but then allow the other 34 to relate what it was like to deal with that individual and tell stories. So each profile of each GM is really kind of the two-sided coin, what it was like in his shoes and then what it was like to deal and interact with him.
On the other side. Exactly. And you said you did notice a very Darwinian approach to coaching. If they were able to evolve and adapt, chances are they would make it to the top versus the others who would just wither away.
Yeah, if you look over the history of the NHL, you could go back a long time, but let's start in '67 expansion when the teams expanded. Then the WHA came in, the whole economic structure changed, then Europe opened up, then we had the CBA. So at each maybe 10, 15 years, there's been a pretty significant shift in the construct of hockey, and what you find is coming through each of those periods of time, there's usually about 5 GMs that sort of drop off, that just not able to adapt to that new structure, either the psychology of what it takes to build a team or just the pure financial skills and managerial skills. And so those that are able to last a long time and live through multiple eras obviously have a lot of management skills.
Let's get through actually another picture that you brought here of GM McPhee. How would you describe his leadership?
Well, George McPhee is the general manager of the Washington Capitals. Fans will know. He's a very decent guy. He's a Hobey Baker winner, so he's an example of somebody that was a prolific hockey player in his own right and then has come through. He took a team to the Stanley Cup Finals in his first year and then hasn't been there since. So he really represents that struggle that all GMs have, which is you get close, but how do you put it over the top? And in fact, he's had to pretty much deconstruct and then rebuild that team. I think the challenge for him, as for many, is when you're close, you've got this core group of players. Is it just tinkering along the margins, or do you have to make some fundamental changes to your core in order to get over the top? So those are the challenges that GMs face, and now of course you layer on salary cap issues and other constraints, and it becomes really a Gordian knot to try and figure it out.
I don't want to get to Lamoriello before we wrap.
Sure. Lou Lamoriello, love Lou Lamoriello. Three-time Cup winner in New Jersey. I really think he could run any Fortune 500 company. What you find is the GMs, their fundamental job is managing information, and he's very much a control type guy, really silos his information within his organization and protects information getting out. But that level of control has really allowed him to put the specific stamp he wants on every facet of that operation, and he's been very successful.
Fascinating stuff. I said this reminds me so much how timely of Moneyball, which is doing so well with Brad Pitt. It's the science behind the sport, and that's really what this is. And it's not just for all of the hockey fans in your life. This would be an amazing gift, but also for those who are entrepreneurs or leaders in their own company, because there's always that sport analogy or metaphor to making it as a captain in whatever you're doing in your world and profession.
Absolutely.
Pick it up, everybody. It's called Behind the Moves at the website only. That's the only place you can get it. It's not in stores, so it's nhlgms.com to pick it up on the website. You cannot get it in stores, and I know we're going to get inundated with questions, so breakfasttelevision.ca as well to provide the link. And thank you so much. It's a beautiful book. You did a gorgeous job.
Thanks very much.
Right now, we're to Kevin Frankish in the newsroom.
And we're monitoring.